I suppose with that, we can bring down the music as we normally do and bring up the cameras. And welcome to another Sunday night edition of Accessibly Live, the book club reading room. Hope everyone's having a good night tonight. As you guys remember, if you tuned in to the Thursday night show, we had to cancel our normal trip, a couple miles down the road and down to the Banfield Library because, I had surgery. And my executive producer basically stood in front of my car and said, "No, you're not." And so I said, "Okay, fine." So what we're doing is we're doing it from the main studio here, and probably this weekend and maybe next weekend we will do the chapters from here. If I'm feeling really good, I'm going to head down to the library and, could do that. So we're going to do that, this and the other thing, and get into the book. We are going to be doing the next three chapters 4, 5, and 6 of the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle classic Sherlock Holmes mystery, The Hound of the Baskervilles. And glad to have you here. Glad to have everybody tuning in. If you guys get a chance, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm a lot. I know there's a lot of people watching, and I appreciate that. But would love to have the algorithm say, "Oh, hey, you got a couple more people." I would like that a lot. So we will, so just hit the like and subscribe. And remember, I don't do Patreon. I don't do any of that pay stuff because I don't want to. You guys got better things to do with some of your money. So we are going to be doing that, this, and the other thing, and getting into the movie. I'm still on the mode from a couple weeks ago when we did the Phantom movie serial. We're going to get started with the next 4 chapters of Sherlock Holmes mystery by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Chapter 4, Sir Henry Baskerville. By the way, my executive producer thought it would be nice to do a English mystery with a good cup of tea. A cuppa. Our breakfast table was cleared early, and Holmes waited in his dressing gown for the promised interview. Our clients were punctual to their appointment, when the clock struck 10, when Dr. Mortimer was shown up, followed by the young baronet. The latter was a small, alert, dark-eyed man about 30 years of age, very sturdily built, with thick black eyebrows and a strong, pugnacious face. He wore a ruddy-tinted tweed suit and had the weather-beaten appearance of one who had spent most of his time in the open air, and yet there was something in his steady eye and the quiet assurance of his bearing which indicated the gentleman. "This is Sir Henry Baskerville," said Dr. Mortimer. "Why, yes," said he, "and the strange thing is, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, that if my friend here had not promised coming round to you this morning, I should have come on my own account. I understand that you think out little puzzles, and I've had one this morning which wants more thinking out than I am able to give it." "Pray take a seat, Sir Henry. Do I understand to say that you have yourself had some remarkable experience since you arrived in London?" "Nothing of such importance, Mr. Holmes. Only a joke, as like as not. It was a list letter, if you can call it a letter, which reached me this morning." He laid the envelope upon the table, and we all bent over it. It was of common quality, grayish in color. The address, Sir Henry Baskerville, Northumberland Hotel, was printed in rough characters. In the postmark, Charing Cross, and the date of posting was the preceding evening. "Who knew that you were going to the Northumberland Hotel?" asked Holmes, glancing keenly at our visitor. "No one could have known. We only decided after I met Dr. Mortimer. But Dr. Mortimer was no doubt already stopping there. No, I had been staying with a friend, said the doctor. There was no possible indication that we intended to go to this hotel. Someone seems to be very deeply interested in your movements. Out of the envelope, he took out half a sheet of foolscap paper, folded into four. This he opened, spread flat upon the table. Across the middle of it was a single sentence that had been formed by the expedient of pasting printed words upon it. It ran, "As you value your life or your reason, keep away from the moor." The word "more" was printed in ink. "Now," said Sir Henry Baskerville, "perhaps you will tell me, Mr. Holmes, what in thunder is the meaning of that, and who is it takes so much interest in my affairs?" "What do you make of it, Dr. Mortimer? You must allow that there is nothing supernatural about this, at any rate." "No, sir, but it might very well come from someone who was convinced that the business is supernatural." "What business?" asked Sir Henry. "It seems to me that all you gentlemen know a great deal more than I do about my own affairs." "You shall share our knowledge before you leave this room, Sir Henry. I promise you that," said Sherlock Holmes. "We will confine ourselves for the present, with your permission, to this very interesting document, which must have been put together and posted yesterday evening. Have you yesterday's Times, Watson?" "It's here in the corner." "Might I trouble you for it? The inside page, please, with the leading articles." He glanced swiftly over it, running his eyes up and down the columns. "Capital article, this, on free trade. Permit me to give you an extract from it. You may be cajoled into imagining that your own special trade or your own industry will be encouraged by a protective tariff, but it stands to reason that such legislation must in long run keep away wealth from the country, diminish the value of our imports, and lower the general condition of life in this island." "What do you make of that, Watson?" cried Holmes in high glee, rubbing his hands together with satisfaction. "Don't you think that is admirable sentiment?" Dr. Mortimer looked at Holmes with an air of a professional interest, and Sir Henry Baskerville turned a pair of puzzled dark eyes upon me. "I don't know much about the tariff and things of that kind," said he, "but it seems to me we've got a bit of the trail so far as the note is concerned." "On the contrary, I think we're particularly hot upon the trail, Sir Henry. Watson here knows more about my methods than you do, but I fear that even he has not quite grasped the significance of the sentence." "No, I confess that I see no connection. And yet, my dear Watson, there is so very close a connection that one is extracted out of the other. Your life, reason, value, keep away from the. Don't you see now whence the words had been taken?" "By thunder, you're right. Well, if it is that smart," cried Sir Henry, "if any possible doubt remained, it is settled by the fact that keep away and from the are cut out of one piece." "Well now, so it is." "Really, Mr. Holmes, this exceeds anything which I could have imagined," said Dr. Mortimer, gazing at my friend in amazement. "I could understand anyone saying that the words were from a newspaper, but that you should match name which, and add that it came from the leading article, is really one of the most remarkable things which I have ever known. How do you do it?" "I presume, doctor, that you could tell the skull of a native from that of an Esquimaux." "Most certainly." "But how?" because that is my special hobby. The differences are the obvious. The supraorbital crest, the facial angle, the muscular curve, but this is my special hobby, and the differences are equally obvious. There is such there is as much difference to my eyes between the lead bourgeoisie type of the Times article and the slovenly print of the evening halfpenny paper as there could be between your native and your Esquimaux. The detection of types is one of the most elementary branches of knowledge to the special expert in crime. Though I confess that once, when I was very young, I confused the Leeds Mercury with the Western Morning News. But a Times leader is entirely distinctive, and these words could have been taken from nothing else. As it was done yesterday, the strong probability was that we should find the words in yesterday's issue. As far as I can follow you, then, Mr. Holmes, said Sir Henry Baskerville, someone cut out this message with scissors. Nail scissors, said Holmes. You can see that it was very short-bladed scissors, since the cutter had to take 2 snips over keep away. That is so. Someone then cut out the message with a pair of short-blade scissors, pasted it with glue. Gum, said Holmes, with gum on the paper. But I want to know why the word more should have been written. Because they could not find it in any print. The other words were all simple and might be found in any issue, but more would be less common. Why, of course, that would explain it. Have you read anything else in this message, Mr. Holmes? There are 1 or 2 indications, and yet the utmost pains have been taken to remove all clues. The address, you observe, is printed in rough characters, but the Times is a paper which is seldom found in any hands but those of highly educated. We may take it, therefore, that the letter was composed by an educated man who wished to pose as an uneducated one, and his effort to conceal his own writing suggests that the writing might be known or come to be known by you. Again, you will observe that the words are not gummed on in inaccurate line, but some are much higher than others. Life, for example, is quite out of its proper place. That may point to carelessness, or it may point to agitation and hurry upon the part of the cutter. On the whole, it was inclined to the latter view, since the matter was evidently important, and it was unlikely that the composer of such a letter would be careless. If he were in a hurry, it opens up the interesting question, why should he be in a hurry? Since any letter posted up to early morning would reach Sir Henry before he would leave his hotel. Did the composer fear an interruption? And from who? We are coming now rather into the region of guesswork, said Dr. Mortimer. Say, rather, into the region where we balance probabilities and choose the most likely. It is the scientific use of the imagination, but we have always some material basis on which to start our speculation. Now, you would call it guess, no doubt, but I am almost certain that this address has been written in a hotel. How in the world can you say that? If you examine it carefully, you will see that both the pen and the ink has given the writer trouble. The pen has sputtered twice in a single word, and has run dry 3 times in a short address, showing that there were very little ink in the bottle. Now, a private pen or ink bottle is seldom allowed to be in such a state, and the combination of the two must be quite rare. But you know the hotel ink and the hotel pen, which it is rare to get anything else. Yes, I have very little hesitation in saying that could could we examine the wastepaper baskets of the hotels around Charing Cross until we found the remains of the mutilated Times leader, we could lay our hands straight upon the person who sent this singular message. Hello, hello, what is this? He was carefully examining the foolscap paper upon which the words were pasted, holding it only an inch or two from his eyes. Well, nothing, said he, throwing it down. It is a blank half sheet of paper, without even the watermark upon it. I think we have drawn as much as we can from this curious letter. And now, Sir Henry, has anything else of interest happened to you since you've been in London? Why, no, Mr. Holmes. I think not. You have not observed anyone follow or watch you. I seem to have walked right into the thick of a dime novel, said our visitor. Why in thunder should anyone follow or watch me? We are coming to that. You have nothing else to report to us before we go into this matter? Well, it depends upon what you think worth reporting. I think anything out of the ordinary routine of life well worth reporting. Sir Henry smiled. I don't know much about British life yet, for I have spent nearly all my time in the States and in Canada. But I hope that to lose one of your boots is not part of the ordinary routine of life over here. You lost one of your boots. My dear sir, cried Dr. Mortimer, it is only mislaid. You will find it when you return to the hotel. Why, it is the use of troubling Mr. Holmes with trifles of this kind. Well, he asked me for anything outside of the ordinary routine. Exactly, said Holmes, however foolish the incident may seem. You have lost one of your boots, you say. Well, mislaid it anyway. I put them both outside my door last night, and there was only one in the morning. I could get no sense out of a chap who cleans them, but worst of it is that I only brought the pair last night from in the Strand, and have never had them on. If you've never worn them, why did you put them out to be cleaned? They were both tan boots and had never been varnished. That was why I put them out. Then I understand that on your arrival in London yesterday, you went out at once and bought a pair of boots. I did a good deal of shopping, Dr. Mortimer. Dr. Mortimer here went round with me. You see, if I am to be squire down there, I must dress the part, and it must be that I have got a little careless in my ways out west. Among other things, I bought these brown boots, gave $6 for them, and had one stolen before even I had them on my feet. It seems a singular useless thing to steal, said Sherlock Holmes. I confess that I share Dr. Mortimer's belief that it will not be long before the missing boot is found. And now, gentlemen, said the baronet with decision, it seems to me that I have spoken quite enough about the little that I know. It is time that you keep your promise and give me a full account of what we are all driving at. Your request is a very reasonable one, Holmes answered. Dr. Mortimer, I think you could not do better than to tell your story as you told it to us. Thus encouraged, our scientific friend drew his papers from his pocket and presented the whole case as had done upon the morning before. Sir Henry Baskerville listened with the deepest attention and with an occasional exclamation of surprise. Well, I have come into an inheritance with a vengeance, said he, when a long narrative was finished. Of course, I've heard of the Hound ever since I was in nursery. It's the pet story of the family, though I never thought of taking it seriously before. But as to my uncle's death, well, it all seems boiling up in my head, and I can't get it clear yet. You don't seem quite to have made up your mind whether it is a case for a policeman or clergyman. Precisely. And now there is the affair of the letter to me at the hotel. I suppose that it fits into its place. It seems to show that someone knows more about what we do about what more than we do about what goes on upon the moor, said Dr. Mortimer. And also, said Holmes, that someone is not ill disposed towards you, since they warn you of danger. Or it may be that they wish for their own purposes to scare me away. Well, of course, that is possible also. I am very much indebted to you, Dr. Mortimer, for introducing me to a problem which presents several interesting alternatives. But the practical point which we now have to decide, Sir Henry, is whether it is or not advisable for you to go to Baskerville Hall. Why should I not go? There seems to be danger. Do you mean danger from this family fiend, or do you mean danger from human beings? Well, that is what we have to find out. Whatever it is, my answer is fixed. There is no devil in hell, Mr. Holmes, and there is no man upon earth who can prevent me from going to the home of my own people, and you may take that to be my final answer. His dark brown brows knitted and his face flushed to a dusky red as he spoke. It was evident that in his fiery temper of the Baskervilles was not extinct in this their last representative. Meanwhile, he said, I have hardly had time to think over all that you have told me. It is a big thing for a man to have to understand and to decide at one sitting. I should like to have a quiet hour by myself to make up my mind. Now look here, Mr. Holmes. It's 11:30 now, and I'm going back right away to my hotel. Suppose you and your friend Dr. Watson come around and lunch with us at 2. I'll be able to tell you more clearly than how this thing strikes me. Is that convenient to you, Watson? Perfectly. Then you may expect us. Shall I have a cab called? I prefer to walk, for this affair has flurried me rather. I'll join you in a walk with pleasure, said his companion. Then we meet again at 2 o'clock. Au revoir, and good morning. We heard the steps of our visitors descend the stair and the bang of the front door. In an instant, Holmes had changed from the languid dreamer to the man of action. Your hat and boots, Watson. Quick, not a moment to lose. He rushed into his room and in his dressing gown and was back again in a few seconds in a frock coat. We hurried together down the stairs and into the street. Dr. Mortimer and Baskerville were still visible about 200 yards ahead of us in the direction of Oxford Street. Shall I run on and stop them? Not for the world, my dear Watson. I am perfectly satisfied with your company if you will tolerate mine. Our friends are wise, for it is certainly a very fine morning for a walk. He quickened his pace until we had decreased the distance which divided us by half. Then, still keeping 100 yards behind, we followed into Oxford Street and so down Regent Street. Once our friends stopped and stared into shop windows, upon which Holmes did the same. An instant afterwards he gave a little cry of satisfaction, and, following the direction of eager eyes, I saw that a hansom cab with a man inside had halted on the other side of the street and was now proceeding slowly onward again. That's our man, Watson. Come along. We'll have a good look at him if we can do no more. In an instant, I was aware of a bushy black beard and pair of piercing eyes turned upon us through the side window of the cab. Instantly, the trap door at the top flew up, and something was screamed at the driver, and the cab flew mildly off down Regent Street. Holmes looked eagerly around for another, but no empty one was in sight. Then he dashed in wild pursuit amid the stream of traffic, but the start was too great, and already the cab was out of sight. "There now," said Holmes bitterly as he emerged panting and white with vexation from the rough tide of vehicles. "Was ever such bad luck, and such bad management too? Watson, Watson, if you are an honest man, will you record this also and set it against my successes? Who was the man?" "I have no idea." "A spy?" "Well, it was evident from what we have heard in Baskerville has been very closely shadowed by someone since he has been in town. How else could it have been known so quickly that it was the Northumberland Hotel which he had chosen? If they had followed them the first day, I argued that they would have followed him also the second. You may have observed that I twice strolled over to the window while Mortimer was reading the legend. Yes, I remember. I was looking out for loiterers in the street, but I saw none. We are dealing with a very clever man, Watson. This matter cuts very deep, and though I have not finally made up my mind whether it is a benevolent or malevolent agency which is in touch with us, I am conscious always of a power and design. When our friends left, I once followed them in the hopes of marking down their invisible attendant. So wily was he that he had not trusted himself upon foot, but he had availed himself of a cab, so that he could loiter behind or dash past them as so to escape their notice. His method had the additional advantage that they were taken a cab he had already to follow them. It has, however, one obvious disadvantage. It puts him in the power of the cabman. Exactly. What a pity we did not get the number. My dear Watson, clumsy as I have been, you surely do not imagine that I neglected to get the number. Number 2704 is our man. But that is no use to us for the moment. I failed to see how you could have done more. On observing the cab, I should have instantly turned and walked in the other direction. I should have then, at my leisure, have hired a second cab, followed the first at a respectful distance, or, better still, have driven to the Northumberland Hotel and waited there. When our unknown had followed Baskerville home, we should have had the opportunity of playing his own game upon himself, and seeing where he made for. As it is, by an indiscreet eagerness, which was taken advantage of an extraordinary quickness and an energy by our opponent, we have betrayed ourselves and lost our man. We had been sauntering slowly down Regent Street during this conversation, and Dr. Mortimer and with his companion had long vanished in front of us. "There is no object in our following them," said Holmes. "The shadow has departed and will not return. We must see that further cards we have in our hands, and play them with decision. Could you swear to that man's face in the cab?" "I could swear only to the beard." "And so could I, from which I gather that in all probability it was a false one. A clever man, upon so delicate an errand, has no use for a beard save to conceal his features. Come in here, Watson." He turned into one of the district messenger offices, where he was warmly greeted by the manager. "Ah, Wilson, I see you have not forgotten the little case in which I had the good fortune to help you." "No, sir, indeed I have not. You saved my good name and perhaps my life." "My dear fellow, you exaggerate. I have some recollection, Wilson, that you had among your boys a lad named Cartwright, who showed some ability during the investigation." "Yes, sir, he is still with us." Could you ring him up? Thank you. And I should be glad to have charge of this £5 note. A lad of 14 with bright, keen face had obeyed the summons of the manager. He stood now gazing with the great reverence at the famous detective. Let me have the hotel directory, said Holmes. Thank you. Now, Cartwright, there are names of 23 hotels in here, all in the immediate neighboring of Charing Hood Cross. Do you see? Yes, sir. Will you visit each of these in turn? Yes, sir. You will begin in each case by giving the outside porter 1 shilling. Here are 23 shillings. Yes, sir. You will tell him that you want to see the waste paper of yesterday. You will say that it is an important telegram that has miscarried and you are looking for it. You understand? Yes, sir. But what you are really looking for is the center page of the Times with some holes cut in it with scissors. There is a copy of the Times. This is the page. You should easily recognize it, could you not? Yes, sir. In each case, the outside porter will send for the hall porter to whom you gave the shilling. Here are 23 shillings. You will then learn in possibly 20 cases out of the 23 that the waste of the day before had been burned or removed. In 3 other cases, you will be shown a heap of paper, and you will look for this page of the Times morning above it. The odds are enormously against your finding it. There are 10 shillings over in case of emergencies. Let me have a report by wire at Baker Street before evening. And now, Watson, it only remains for us to find out by wire the identity of the cabman number 2704. Then we will drop into one of the Bond Street picture galleries and fill in the time until we are due at the hotel. Chapter 5. 3 broken threads and a cup of tea. Sherlock Holmes had, in a very remarkable degree, the power of detaching his mind at will. For 2 hours the strange business in which we had been involved appeared to be forgotten, and he was entirely absorbed in the pictures of modern Belgian masters. He would talk of nothing but art. Of course, he had the crudest ideas from our leaving the gallery until we found ourselves at Northumberland Hotel. Sir Henry Baskerville is upstairs expecting you, said the clerk. He asked me to show you up at once when you have come. Have you any objections to my looking at your register? Said Holmes. Not in the least. The book showed that 2 names had been added, that of the Baskervilles. One was Theophilus Johnson, family of Newcastle. The other, Mrs. Oldmore and maid, of High Lodge, Alton. Surely that must be the same Johnson whom I used to know, said Holmes to the porter. A lawyer, is he not? Gray-haired, walks with a limp? No, sir. This is Mr. Johnson, the coal owner. A very active gentleman, not older than yourself. Surely you're mistaken about his trade. No, sir. He used this hotel for many years. It is very well known to us. Ah, that settles it. Mrs. Oldmore, too. I seem to remember the name. Excuse my curiosity. But often in calling upon one friend, one finds another. She is an invalid lady, sir. Her husband was once mayor of Gloucester. She always comes to us when she is in town. Thank you. I am afraid I cannot claim her acquaintance. We have established a most important fact by these questions, Watson, he continued in a low voice as we went upstairs. We know that the people who are so interested in our friend have not settled down in his own hotel. That means while they are, as we have seen, very anxious to watch him, they are equally anxious that he should not see them. Now, this is a most suggestive fact. What does it suggest? It suggests, hello, my dear fellow, what on earth is the matter? As we came around the top of the stairs, we had run up against Sir Henry Baskerville himself. His face was flushed with anger, and he held an old and dusty boot in one of his hands. His furious was that he could hardly articulate, and when he did speak, it was in much broader, more Western dialect than any which we had heard him in the morning. Seems to me they are playing me for a sucker in this hotel, he cried. They'll find they've started in to monkey with the wrong man unless they are careful. By thunder, if that chap can't be my missing boot, find my missing boot, there will be trouble. I can take a joke with the very best, Mr. Holmes, but they've gotten a bit over the test time. Still looking for your boot? Yes, sir, and mean to find it. But surely you said it was a brand new brown boot. And so it was, sir. And now it's an old black one. What? You don't mean to say? That's just what I do mean to say. I only had 3 pairs in the world. The new brown, the old black, and the patent leathers, which I am wearing. Last night, they took one of my brown ones, and today they have sneaked one of the blacks. Well, have you got it? Speak out, man, and don't stand staring. The agitated German waiter had appeared upon the scene. No, sir, I have made inquiries all over the hotel, but I can hear no word of it. Well, either that boot comes back before sundown, or I'll see the manager and tell him to go right straight out of this hotel. I shall be found, sir. I promise you that you shall have a little patience with the found. Mind it is, for it is the last thing of mine that I'll lose in this den of thieves. Well, Mr. Holmes, you'll excuse my troubling you about such a trifle. I think it is well worth troubling about. Why? You look very serious over it. How do you explain it? I just don't attempt to explain it. It seems the very maddest, queerest thing that has ever happened to me. The, the oddest, perhaps, said Holmes thoughtfully. What do you make of it yourself? Well, I don't profess to understand it yet. This case of yours is very complex, Sir Henry. When taken in conjunction with your uncle's death, I am not sure that all the 500 cases of capital importance which I have handled, there is one such cut so deep. But we hold together threads in our hands, and the odds are that one or another of them guides us to the truth. We may waste time in the following the wrong one, but sooner or later we must come upon the right. We had a pleasant luncheon in which little was said of the business which brought us together. It was in the private sitting room to which we afterwards repaired that Holmes asked Baskerville what were his intentions. To go to Baskerville Hall. And when? At the end of the week. On the whole, said Holmes, I think that your decision is a wise one. I have ample evidence that you are being dogged in London, and amid the millions of this great city, it is difficult to discover who these people are or what their object can be. If their intentions are evil, they might do you mischief, and we should be powerless to prevent it. You did not know, Mr. Mortimer, that you were followed this morning from my house? Dr. Mortimer started violently. Followed? By whom? That, unfortunately, is what I cannot tell you. Have you among your neighbors or acquaintances on Dartmoor any man with a black full beard? No, nor let me see. Why, yes, Barrymore, Sir Charles's butler, is a man with a full black beard. Ha! Where is Barrymore? He is in charge of the hall. We had best be certain that he is there, or it, or if by any possibility he might be in London. How can you do that? Give me a telegraph form. It is all ready for Sir Henry. That will do. Addressed to Mr. Barrymore, Baskerville Hall. What is the nearest telegraph office? Grimpen? Very good. We will send a second wire to the postmaster, Grimpen. Telegram to Mr. Barrymore to be delivered into his own hand. If absent, please return wire to Sir Henry Baskerville, Northumberland Hotel. That should let us know before evening whether Barrymore is at his post in Devonshire or not. That's so, said Baskerville. By the way, Dr. Mortimer, who is this Barrymore anyway? He is the son of the old caretaker who is dead. They have looked after the hall for 4 generations now. So far as I know, he and his wife are as respectable a couple in any of the county. At the same time, said Baskerville, it's clear enough that so long as there are none of the family in the hall, these people might have a mighty fine home and nothing to do. That is true. Did Barrymore profit at all by Sir Charles's will? Asked Holmes. He and his wife had £500 each. Ha! Did they know that they would receive this? Yes, Sir Charles was very fond of talking about provisions of his will. That is very interesting. I hope, said Dr. Mortimer, that you do not look with suspicious eyes upon everyone who received a legacy from Sir Charles, for I also had £1,000 left to me. Indeed. Anyone else? There were many insignificant sums to individuals and a large number of public charities. The residue all went to Sir Henry. And how much was the residue? Blah. Sorry, guys. Can't say the words today. How much was the residue? £740,000. Holmes raised his eyebrows in surprise. I had no idea that so gigantic a sum was involved, said he. Sir Charles had the reputation of being rich, but we did not know how very rich he was until we came to examine his securities. The total value of the estate was close to on 1 million. Dear me, it is a stake for which a man might well play a desperate game. And one more question, Dr. Mortimer. Supposing that anything happened to our young friend here, you will forgive the unpleasant hypothesis. Who would inherit this estate? Since Roger Baskerville, Sir Charles's young brother, died unmarried, the estate would descend into the Desmonds, who are distant cousins. James Desmond is an elderly clergyman in Westmoreland. Thank you. These details are all the greatest interest. Have you ever met Mr. James Desmond? Yes. He once came down to visit Sir Charles. He is a man of venerable appearance and of saintly life. I remember that he refused to accept any settlement from Sir Charles, though he pressed it upon him. And this man of simple tastes would be the heir to Sir Charles's thousands? He would be the heir to the estate because that is entailed. He would also be the heir to the money unless it were willed otherwise by present owner, who can, of course, do what he likes with it. And you have made your own will, Sir Henry? No, Mr. Holmes, I have not. I have had no time for it. It was only yesterday that I learned how matters stood. But in any case, I feel that the money should go with the title and the estate. That was my poor uncle's idea. How is the owner going to restore the glories of the Baskervilles if he has not the money enough to keep up the property? House, land, and $1,000 must go together. Quite so. Well, Sir Henry, I am of one mind with you as to the advisability of your going down to Devonshire without delay. There is one provision which I must make. You certainly must not go alone. Dr. Mortimer returns with me. But Dr. Mortimer has his practice to attend to, and his house is miles away from yours. With all the goodwill in the world, he may not be able to help you. No, Sir Henry, you must take with you someone, a trustworthy man, who will be at your side. Is it possible that you could come yourself, Mr. Holmes? If the matters came to a crisis, I should endeavor to be present in person. But you do understand that, with my extensive consulting practice, and with the constant appeals which reach me from many quarters, it is impossible for me to be absent from London for an indefinite time. At the present instant, one of the most reverend names in England is being besmirched by a blackmailer, and I can only stop a disastrous scandal. You will see how impossible it is for me to go to Dartmoor. Whom would you recommend, then? Mr. Holmes laid his hand upon my arm. If my friend would undertake it, there is no man who is better worthy having at your side than you are in a tight place. No one can say so more confidently than I. The proposition took me completely by surprise, but before I had time to answer, Baskervilles seized me by the hand and wrung it heartily. Well, now, that is really kind of you, Dr. Watson, he said. You see how much it is with me, and you know just as much about the matter as I do. If you will come down to Baskerville Hall and see me through, I will never forget it. The promise of adventure had always a fascination for me, and I was complimented by the words of Holmes and by the eagerness with the baronet hailed me as a companion. I will come with your pleasure, said I. I do not know how I could employ my time better. And you will report very carefully to me, said Holmes. When a crisis comes, as it will do, I will direct how you shall act. I suppose that by Saturday all might be ready. Would that suit, Dr. Watson? Perfectly. Then on Saturday, unless you hear from the contrary, we shall meet at the 10:30 train from Paddington. We had risen to depart when Baskerville gave a cry of triumph, and diving into one of the corners of the room, he drew a brown boot from under a cabinet. My missing boot, he cried. May all our difficulties vanish as easily, said Sherlock Holmes. But it is a very singular thing, Dr. Mortimer remarked. I searched this room carefully before lunch. And so did I, said Baskerville. Every inch of it. There is certainly no boot in it, then. In that case, the waiter must have placed it there while we were lunching. The German was sent for, but professed not to know anything of the matter, nor could any inquiry clear it up. Another item had been added to the constant and apparently purposeless series of small mysteries which had succeeded each other so rapidly. Setting aside the whole grim story of Sir Charles's death, we all had line of inexplicable incidents all within the limits of 2 days, which included the receipt of the printed letter, the black-bearded spy in the hansom, the loss of the new brown boot, the loss of the old black boot, and now the return of the new brown boot. Holmes sat silent in his cab as we drove back to Baker Street, and I knew from his drawn brows and keen face that on his mind, like my own, was busy endeavoring to frame some scheme into which all these strange and apparently disconnected episodes could be fitted. All afternoon and late into the evening he sat lost in tobacco and thought. Just before dinner, 2 telegrams were handed in. The first ran, "Have just heard that Barrymore is at the hall, Baskerville." Second, "Visited 23 hotels as directed, but sorry to report unable to trace cut sheet of times. Cartwright." There go 2 of my threads, Watson. There is nothing more stimulating than a case where everything goes against you. We must cast round for another scent. We still have the cabman who drove the spy. Exactly. I have wired to get his name and address from the official registry. I should not be surprised if this were an answer to my question. The ring of the bell proved to be something even more satisfactory than an answer, however, for the door opened, and a rough-looking fellow entered who was evidently the man himself. "I got a message from the head office that a gent at this address had been inquiring for number 2704, said he. "I've driven my cab this 7 years, and never a word of complaint. I came here straight from the yard to ask you for your face what you had against me." "I have nothing in the world against you, my good man," said Holmes. "On the contrary, I have half a sovereign for you if you'll give me a clear answer to my questions." "Well, I've had a good day and no mistake," said the cabman with a grin. "What is it you wanted to ask, sir?" "First of all, your name and address, in case I want you again." "John Clayton, 3 Turpey Street, at Borough. My cab is out of Shipley's Yard, near Waterloo Station." Sherlock Holmes made a note of it. "Now, Clayton, tell me about the fare who came and watched this house at 10 o'clock this morning, and afterwards followed 2 gentlemen down Regent Street." The man looked surprised and a little embarrassed. "Why, there's no good telling you of things, for you seem to know as much as I do already," said he. "The truth is that the gentleman told me that he was a detective, and that I was to say nothing about him to anyone." "My good fellow, this is a very serious business, and you may find yourself in a pretty bad position if you try to hide anything from me. You say your fare told you he was a detective." "Yes, he did." "When did he say this?" "When he left me." "Did he say anything more?" "He mentioned his name." Holmes cast a swift glance of triumph at me. "Oh, he mentioned his name, did he? That was impudent. What was the name of that name that he mentioned?" "His name," said the cabman, "was Mr. Sherlock Holmes." Never had I seen my friend more completely taken aback than by the cabman's reply. For an instant he sat in silent amazement. Then he burst into a hearty laugh. "A touch, Watson, an undeniable touch," said he. "I feel a foil as quick and supple as my own. He got home upon me very prettily that time." "So his name was Sherlock Holmes, was it?" "Yes, sir, that's what the gentleman's name." "Excellent. Tell me where you picked him up, and all that occurred." "He hailed me at 9:30 in Trafalgar Square. He said that he was a detective, and he offered me 2 guineas if I would do exactly what he wanted all day, and ask no questions. I was glad enough to agree. First we drove down to Northumberland Hotel, and waited there until 2 gentlemen came out and took a cab from the rank. We followed their cab until it pulled up somewhere near here." "This very door," said Holmes. "Well, I couldn't be sure of that, but I dare say my fare knew all about it. We pulled halfway down the street and waited an hour and a half, and then the 2 gentlemen passed us, walking, and we followed down Baker Street and along." "I know," said Holmes. "Till we got 3/4 down Regent Street. Then the gentleman threw open the trap and cried that I should drive right away to Waterloo Station, as hard as I could go. I whipped up the mare, and we were there under 10 minutes. Then he paid up his 2 guineas like a good one, and away he went to the station. Only just as he was leaving, he turned round and said, "It might interest you to know that you have been driving Mr. Sherlock Holmes." That's how I came to know his name. I see. And you saw no more of him? Not after he went into the station. And how would you describe Mr. Sherlock Holmes? The cabman scratched his head. Well, he wasn't altogether such an easy gentleman to describe. I'd put him at 40 years of age. He was of middle height, 2 or 3 inches shorter than you, sir. He was dressed like a toff, and he had a black beard, cut square at the end, and a pale face. I don't know as I could say more than that. Color of the eyes. No, I can't say that. Nothing more than what you can remember? No, sir, nothing. Well then, here is your half-sovereign. There's another one waiting for you if you can bring any more information. Good night. Good night, sir, and thank you. John Clayton departed chuckling, and Holmes turned to me with a shrug of his shoulders and a rueful smile. Snap goes our third thread, and we might end where we began, he said. The cunning rascal. He knew our number, knew that Sir Henry Baskerville had consulted me, spotted who I was in Regent Street, conjectured that I had gotten the number of the cab, and would lay my hands on the driver, and so sent back this audacious message. I tell you, Watson, this time we have got a foe who is worthy of our steel. I've been checkmated in London. I can only wish you better luck in Devonshire, but I'm not easy in my mind about it. About what? About sending you. It is an ugly business, Watson, an ugly, dangerous business, and the more I see of it, the less I like. Yes, my dear fellow, you may laugh, but I give you my word that I shall be very glad to have you back safe and sound at Baker Street once more. Chapter 6, last chapter of the evening, Baskerville Hall, and a little bit more tea. Hang on, guys. Surgery sucks. There we go. Yay! Sir Henry Baskerville and Dr. Mortimer were ready upon the date appointed, and we started as arranged for Devonshire. Mr. Sherlock Holmes drove with me to the station and gave me his last parting injunctions and advice. I will not bias your mind by suggesting theories or suspicions, Watson, he said. I wish you simply to report the facts in the fullest possible manner to me, and you can leave me to do all the theorizing. What sort of facts? I asked. Anything which may seem to have a bearing upon whatever indirect upon the case, and especially the relations between young Baskerville and his neighbors, or any fresh particulars concerning the death of Sir Charles. I have made a few inquiries myself in the last few days, but the results have I fear, been negative. One thing only appears to be certain, and that is that Mr. James Desmond, who is the next heir, is an elderly gentleman of a very amiable position, so that this persecution does not rise from him. I really think that we may eliminate him entirely from our calculations. There remain the people who actually surround Sir Henry Baskerville upon the moor. Would it not be well in the first place to get rid of this Barrymore couple? By no means. You could not make a greater mistake. If they are innocent, It would be a cruel injustice, and if they are guilty, we should be giving up all chance of bringing it home to them. No, no, we will preserve them upon our list of suspects. Then there is a groom at the hall, if I remember right. There is two moorland farmers. There is our friend Dr. Mortimer, whom I believe to be entirely honest. And there is his wife, of whom we know nothing. There is this naturalist Stapleton, and there is his sister, who is said to be a young lady of attractions. There is Mr. Franklin of Laughlowland Hall, who is also an unknown factor. And there are one or two neighbors. These are the folks who must be your very special study. I will do my best. You have arms, I suppose? Yes, I thought it as well to take them. Oh, certainly. Keep your revolver near you night and day, and never relax your precautions. Our friends have already secured a first-class carriage, and we are waiting for us upon the platform. No, we have no news of any kind, said Dr. Mortimer in answer to my friend's questions. I can swear to one thing, that it is we have not been shadowed during the last 2 days. We have never gone out without keeping a sharp eye, and no one could have escaped our notice. You have always kept together, I presume. Except yesterday afternoon. I usually give up one day up to pure amusement when I come to town, so I spent it at the Museum of the College of Surgeons. And I went to look at the folk in the park, said Baskerville. But we had no trouble of any kind. It was imprudent of all the same, said Holmes, shaking his head and looking very grave. I beg you, Sir Henry, that you will not go about alone. Some great misfortune will befall you if you do. Did you get your other boot? No, sir. It is gone forever. Indeed. It is very interesting. Well, goodbye, he added, as the train began to slide down the platform. Bear in mind, Sir Henry, one of the phrases in that odd old legend which Dr. Mortimer has read to us, and avoid the moor in the hours of the darkness, when the powers of evil are exalted. I looked back at the platform when we had left it far behind, and saw the tall, austere figure of Holmes standing motionless and gazing after us. The journey was a swift and pleasant one, and I spent it in making the more intimate acquaintances of my two companions, and in playing with Dr. Mortimer's spaniel. In a very few hours, the brown earth had become ruddy, and the brick had changed to granite, and the red cows grazed in well-hedged fields, where the lush grasses and more luxuriant vegetation spoke of a richer, if damper, climate. Young Baskerville stared eagerly out of the window, and cried aloud with delight as he recognized the familiar features of the Devon scenery. I have been over a good part of my world since I left, Dr. Watson, he said, but I have never seen a place to compare with it. I have never saw a Devonshire man who did not swear by this country, I remarked. It depends upon the breed of men quite as much as the country, said Dr. Mortimer. A glance at our friend here reveals a round head of the Celt, which carries inside it the Celt enthusiasm and the power of attachment. Poor Sir Charles's head was that of a rare type, half Gaelic, half Viridian in its characteristics. But you are very young, and you last saw Baskerville Hall, were you not? I was a boy in my teens at the time of my father's death, and had never seen the hall, for he lived in a little cottage on the south coast. Thence I went straight to a friend in America, I tell you, it is all as new to me as it is to Dr. Watson, and I am keen as possible to see the moor. Are you? Then your wish is easily granted. For there is your first sight of the moor, said Dr. Mortimer, pointing out of the carriage window. Over the green squares of the fields and the low curves of the woods, there rose in the distance a grey melancholy hill, with a strange jagged summit, dim and vague in the distance, like some fantastic landscape in a dream. Baskervilles sat for a long time, his eyes fixed upon it, and I read upon his eager face how much it meant to him, this first sight of the strange spot where the men of his blood had held sway so long and left their marks so deep. There he sat with his tweed suit and his American accent in a corner of the Prossic railway carriage, and yet as I look at his dark expressive face I felt more than ever how true a descendant he was of that long line of high-blooded, fiery, masterful men. There were pride and valor and strength in his thick brows, his sensitive nostrils, and his large hazel eyes. If on that forbidding moor a difficult and dangerous quest should lie before us, this was at least a comrade for whom one might venture to take a risk with the certainty that he would bravely share it. The train pulled in at a small way station, and we all descended. Outside, beyond the low white fence, a wagonette with a pair of cobs was waiting. Our coming was evidently a great event, for the station master and porters clustered round us to carry our luggage. It was a sweet, simple country spot, but I was surprised to observe that by the gate there stood two solid, soldierly men in dark uniforms, who leaned upon their rifles and had glanced keenly at us as we passed. The coachman, a hard-faced, gnarled little man, saluted Sir Henry Baskerville, and in a few minutes we were flying swiftly down the broad white road. Rolling pasture lands curved upon on either side of us, and old gabled houses peeped out from amid the thick green foliage. But beyond the peaceful and sunlit countryside there rose, ever dark against the evening sky, the long, gloomy curve of the moor, broken by the jagged and sinister hills. The wagonette swung around into a side road, and we curved upward through the deep lanes, worn over by centuries of wheels, high banks on either side, heavy with dripping moss and fleshy hart's tongues ferns. Bronzing brackets and mottled bramble gleamed in the light of the sinking sun. Still steadily rising, we passed over a narrow granite bridge and skirted a noisy stream which gushed swiftly down, foaming and roaring amid the gray boulders. Both the road and the stream wound up through the valley dense with scrub oak and fir. At every turn Baskerville gave an exclamation of delight, looking eagerly about him and asking the countless questions. To his eyes all seemed beautiful. All lay upon the countryside, which bore so clearly the mark of the waning year. Yellow leaves carpeted the lanes and fluttered down upon us as we passed. The rattle of our wheels died away as we drove through the drifts of rotting vegetation, sad gifts, as it seemed to me, for nature to throw before the carriage of the returning heir of the Baskervilles. "Hullo!" cried Dr. Mortimer. "What is this?" A steep curve, and heath-clad land, and outlying spur of the moor lay in front of us. On the summit, hard and clear like an equestrian statue upon the pedestal, was a mounted soldier, dark and stern, with his rifle poised ready over his forearm. He was watching the road along which we traveled. "What is this, Perkins?" asked Dr. Mortimer. Our driver half turned in his seat. "There is a convict escaped from Princeton, sir. He has been out 3 days now, and the warders watch every road and every station, but we've got no sight of him yet. The farmers about here don't like it, sir, and that's a fact." "Well, I understand they get £5 if they can give information." "Yes, sir, but the chance of £5 is but a poor thing compared to the chance of having your throat cut. You see, it isn't like any ordinary convict. This is a man they would stick at nothing." "Who is he, then?" "It is Selden of the Notting Hill murderer." I remember the case well, for it was one in which Holmes had taken an interest in the account, for the peculiar ferocity of the crime and the wanton brutality which had marked all the actions of the assassin. The communication of his death sentence had been due to some doubts as to his complete sanity, so atrocious was his conduct. Our wagonette had topped a rise, and in front of us rose the huge expanse of the moor, mottled and gnarled in craggy cairns and tors. A cold wind whipped down from it and set us shivering. Somewhere there, on the desolate plain, was lurking this fiendish man, hiding in a burrow like a wild beast, his heart full of malignancy against the whole race which had cast him out. The need but this to compete the grim suggestiveness of the barren waste, the chilling wind, and the darkling sky. Even Baskerville fell silent and pulled his overcoat more closely around him. We had left the fertile country behind and beneath us. We looked back upon it now, in the slanting rays of the low sun, turning the streams to threads of gold, and glowing on the red earth new turned by the plough, and the broad triangle of the woodlands. The road in front of us grew bleaker and wilder over huge russets and olive slopes, sprinkled with giant boulders. Now and then we passed a moorland cottage, walled and roofed with stone, with no creeper to break its harsh outline. Suddenly, we looked down into a cup-like depression, patched with stunted oak and firs, which had been twisted and bent by the fury of years of storm. Two high, narrow towers rose over the trees. The driver pointed with his whip. "Baskerville Hall," he said. Its master had risen and was staring with flushed cheeks and shining eyes. A few minutes later we reached the lodge gates, a maze of fantastic tracery in wrought iron, with weather-beaten pillars on either side, blotched with lichen and surmounted by boars' heads of the Baskervilles. The lodge was a ruin of black granite and bared ribs of rafters, but facing it was a new building half constructed, the first fruit of Sir Charles's South African gold. Through the gateway we passed into the avenue, where the wheels were again hushed amid the leaves, and the old trees shot their branches into a somber tunnel over our heads. Baskerville shuddered as he looked up the long, dark drive to where the house glimmered like a ghost at the farther end. "Was it here?" he asked in a low voice. "No, no, The yew alley is on the other side. The young heir glanced around with a gloomy face. It is no wonder my uncle felt as if trouble were coming on him in such a place as this, he said. It is enough to scare any man. I'll have a row of electric lamps up here inside of 6 months, and you won't know it again, with 1,000 candle-powered Swan and Edison right here in front of the hall door. The avenue opened into a broad expanse of turf, and the house lay before us. In the fading light, I could see that the center was a heavy block of building from which the porch projected. The whole front was draped in ivy, with a patch clipped bare here and there where a window or a coat of arms broke through the dark veil. From this dark block rose two twin towers, ancient crescented, and pierced with many loopholes. To right and left of the turrets were more modern wings of black granite. A dull light shone through the heavy mullineted windows, and from the high chimneys which rose from the steep, high-angled roof there sprang a single black column of smoke. Welcome, Sir Henry. Welcome to Baskerville Hall. The tall man had stepped from the shadow of the porch to open the door of the wagonette. The figure of a woman was silhouetted against the yellow light of the hall. She came out and helped the man to hand down our bags. You don't mind my driving straight home, Sir Henry, said Dr. Mortimer. My wife is expecting me. Surely you will stay and have some dinner. No, I must go. I shall probably find some work awaiting me. I should stay to show you over the house, but Barrymore will be a better guide than I. Goodbye, and never hesitate night or day to send for me if I can be of service. The wheels died away down the drive while Sir Henry and I turned into the hall, and the door clanged heavily behind us. It was a fine apartment in which we found ourselves, large, lofty, and heavily raftered, with huge bulks of age-blackened oak. In the great old-fashioned fireplace behind the high iron dogs of log fire crackled and snapped. Sir Henry and I held out our hands to it, for we were numb from our long drive. Then we gazed around at the high, thin windows of the old stained glass, and the oak paneling, the stags' heads, the coat of arms upon the walls, all dim and somber in the subdued light of a central lamp. It's just as I imagined it, said Sir Henry. Is it not the very picture of an old family home? To think that this should be the same hall in which for 500 years my people have lived. It strikes me solemn to think of it. I saw his dark face light up with a boyish enthusiasm. As he glanced about, the light beat upon him as he stood, but long shadows trailed down the walls, and hung like a black canopy about him. Barrymore had returned from taking our luggage to our rooms. He stood in front of us now with the well-subdued manner of a well-trained servant. He was a remarkable-looking man, tall, handsome, with a square black beard and pale, distinguished features. Would you wish dinner to be served at once, sir? Is it ready? In a very few minutes, sir. You will find hot water in your rooms. My wife and I will be happy, Sir Henry, to stay with you until you have made your fresh arrangements. But you will understand that under the new conditions of this house will require a considerable staff. What new conditions? I only meant, sir, that Sir Charles led a very retired life, and we were able to look after his wants. You would naturally wish to have more company, and so you will need changes in your household. Do you mean that your wife and you wish to leave? Only when it is quite convenient to you, sir. But your family has been with us for several generations, have they not? I should be sorry to begin my life here by breaking an old family connection. I seem to discern some signs of emotion upon the butler's white face. I feel that also, sir, and so does my wife. But to tell the truth, sir, we were both very much attached to Sir Charles, and his death gave us a shock and made these surroundings very painful to us. I fear that we shall never again be easy in our minds at Baskerville. But what do you intend to do? I have no doubt, sir, that we shall succeed in establishing ourselves in some business. Sir Charles's generosity have given us the means to do so. And now, sir, perhaps I shall show you to your rooms. A square, balustered gallery ran around the top of the old gallery, approached by a double stair. From this central point, two long corridors extended the whole length of the building, from which all the bedrooms opened. My own was the same wing as Baskervilles, and almost next door to it. These rooms appeared to be much more modern than the central part of the house, and the bright paper and the numerous candles did something to remove the somber impression which our arrival had left upon my mind. But the dining room, which opened out into the hall, was a place of shadow and gloom. It was a long chamber with a step separating the dais where the family sat from the lower portion, reserved from their dependents. At one end, a minstrel's gallery overlooked. Black beams shot across above our heads, with a smoke darkened ceiling beyond them, with rows of flaring torches to light up the way, and the color and the rude hilarity of an old time banquet. It might have softened now, but when two black cloth gentlemen sat in the little circle of the light thrown by a shadowed lamp, one's voice became hushed, and one's spirits subdued. The dim line of ancestors in every variety of dress, from the Elizabethan knight to the buck of the Regency, stared down upon us and daunted us by their silent company. We talked little, for one was glad when the meal was over and we were able to retire into the modern billiard room and smoke a cigarette. My world, my word, it is a very cheerful place, said Henry. I suppose one can tone it down, but I feel a bit out of picture at present. I don't wonder that my uncle got a little jumpy if he lived all alone in such a house as this. However, if it suits you, we'll retire early tonight, and perhaps things may seem more cheerful in the morning. I drew aside my curtains before I went to bed, and looked out upon the window. It opened upon the grassy space which lay in front of the hall door. Beyond, two copses of trees moaned and swung in the rising wind. A half moon broke through the rifts of the racing clouds. In its cold light, I saw beyond the trees a broken fringe of rocks and a long, low curve of the melancholy moor. I closed the curtain, feeling that my last impression was in keeping with the rest. And yet, it was not quite the last. I found myself weary and yet wakeful, tossing restlessly from side to side, seeking for the sleep which would not come. Far away, a chiming clock struck out the quarters of the hours, but otherwise a deathly silence lay upon the old house. And then, suddenly, in the very dead of the night, there came a sound to my ears, clear, resonant, and unmistakable. It was the sob of a woman, the muffled, strangling gasp of one who is torn by an uncontrollable sorrow. I sat up in bed and listened intently. The noise could not have been far away, and was certainly in the house. For half an hour I waited with every nerve on the alert, but there came no other sound save the chiming clock and the rustle of the ivy on the wall. And that is the end of chapter 6 of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes mystery, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Hope you're enjoying the story. It is an intriguing story, one of those that has been not only talked about in literature classes, but has been done several times in the movies throughout the throughout the decades. Almost said centuries. No, not that quite. Um, but Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles, has been one of those predominantly well-received Sherlock Holmes mysteries. And the Hound and Sir Henry are all characters whom many people recognize from their literature classes, both in high school and college. Hope you're enjoying it. I really hope you're enjoying the story. Next week, we will be starting with chapter 7, 8, and 9 of the Sherlock Holmes mystery, Hound of the Baskervilles. When you get a chance, please send me a signal. And let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know how you're doing. How you doing? We're getting ready to close down. As I said last week, because these are long chapters, we were originally thinking that it was going to be 4 chapters a night, but it works out much better for all of you and myself that we're doing 3 chapters a night. It just makes more sense, because the last 3 chapters of this book will be that one last night. And I'm excited. This has been a very curious tale. Any thoughts out there on who may have killed Sir Charles? Before we go, one of the things we do here on this show, as we've done on the Thursday night show, is we do a quote for the week. And because this is the book club reading room, we have a book quote. And a very good book quote is that. From philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. You should not be afraid of someone who has a library and reads many books. You should fear someone who has only one book, and he considers it sacred, but he has never read it. You should not be afraid of someone who has a library and reads many books. You should fear someone who has only one book, and he considers it sacred, but has never read it. Have faith in the man who reads, understands, acknowledges foibles, acknowledges ideas and dreams of many people, and not one who stomps them out. Because that's the way the world should be. We should be working in creating ideas for everybody, not just certain people. Because we are a great world. I am Joel K. This is Accessibly Live, the book club reading room, every single Sunday night live here on Twitch and YouTube. This is the email. Give me a yell. Let me know where you guys are watching from. JoelK_OG@Comcast.net. We might have a new email starting next week. We are working on something brand new. Hoping it works out. But we are going to get out of here. Take care, one and all. Be well, be safe, be kind. To all the fathers, happy Father's Day on this Sunday, Father's Day. If you guys are watching on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, thank you. We will talk to you all next week. We will see you next week for the next 3 chapters of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles. right here on Accessibly Live. Take care, all.